everyone, and welcome to Save Money and Recover Faster, How International Business Can Reduce Costs Through Smarter Shipping, Partnerships, and Financing. Hosted by FIT, the Forum for International Trade Training. Pamela Hyatt, Content Marketing Specialist at FIT, and I'm thrilled to be able to present the second webinar in FIT's new Challenge and Change series, presenting the most current relevant topics for SMEs in today's global business environment. Before we jump into today's topic, here are some tips to help you make the most out of this event. Throughout the presentation, you can present questions to the panel by adding them to the Q&A feature, which you can open by clicking on the Q&A icon in the bottom toolbar. It looks like a speech bubble. We'll be collecting the questions throughout the webinar, and we'll answer as many as we can during the live Q&A in the second half of today's event. So today's topic is all about making your cash flow further, something that every business is looking at no matter the economic conditions, but in times like these, being more efficient and focused on the bottom line is crucial. In the next hour, we will talk about how to avoid costly customs issues, the most efficient and cost-effective ways to ship your products, tips to adapt your products and services to reach more customers, and how to form partnerships to do more collaboratively. And also how to improve your cash flow and gain access to the right funding, which is so key for so many of us. So we have a lot to get through. Let's get started. And to do that, I'm thrilled to say we have with us an excellent panel with a wide range of expertise and experience in topic areas. I'll let them tell you a little bit more about themselves and we can get started. So today we have with us Rahim. Welcome, Rahim. Rahim, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Okay. That always has to happen at some point in every one of these virtual meetings, webinars, whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you, Pamela. I'm Rahim, and I've been involved in global supply chains for 15 years. Actually, I have negotiated and executed more than 155 international contracts in sales, purchase, agency, and distributorship with over 25 countries. Now I am a CFA certified instructor, and I'm providing consultation on cost reduction strategies at Smart Tech Corporation for my clients at Toronto. Thank you for having me.
Great, thank you for being with us, Rahim. And welcome to Bernadette Fernandez.
Thank you, Pamela, for inviting me. So I was looking around, and I may very well be the oldest panelist. I've been around since 1986, spending my first 19 years working for Canada's oldest telephone company, which I'm sure you can guess what that is. But I only started my consulting business after garnering international experience across multiple sectors. So the business process outsourcing industry in Guatemala and El Salvador, the e-learning industry in Ireland and the US, and then back to the telecom and internet industry in Trinidad and Tobago. It'll be my 10th anniversary in January, and after spending 7 of those years supporting economic development organizations like the Government of New Brunswick and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I've really developed a passion for helping small, medium businesses develop their export readiness and capabilities and connect them to business opportunities in markets all over the world.
That's great. So glad to have you with us, Bernadette. And welcome to Sonia Galat.
Hi, everyone. So yes, I'm Sonia Galat. I'm based in London. I'm the director of an online platform called Africa Business Venture, which is a platform providing advice solutions for companies that are looking to do business in Africa or expand within the African markets. I'm also the director of the Chamber of Commerce of Ivory Coast, which is a country in West Africa. And my background is legal, so I've been working with international companies, mainly in the energy sector, and helping them with outsourcing their supply chain and implementing their partnerships.
Thank you. And I know you're on UK time, so it's a little bit past the working day for you. So extra special.
No, it's 4 p.m. It's 4 p.m. So
Perfect. And Ashika, Beata, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here. I'm Amashika Baida. I'm a Senior Account Manager at Export Development Canada here in the GTA. I work with companies of all sizes, of all industries, helping them take their business abroad. We provide trade finance and knowledge and risk mitigation strategies. And I look forward to speaking to you today and answering any of your questions. I've been in international trade now for over 10 years, and really my passion is working with companies, helping them grow and expand, and answering any of their problems. Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks everyone. So we'll jump right into our panel discussion. And I think to start off with, let's talk about small business strategy and savings in general. So Bernadette, I'll go to you first. And right off the bat, what are some costs that businesses can cut from their budgets without damaging their businesses?
Well, in some kind of an ironic way, COVID has cut a lot of those costs for us, such as travel. And I can't say that it was, without damaging our businesses, as revenues are almost always negatively impacted when costs, big costs like traveling to meet a buyer or to cast our nets wide at a trade show or networking event. When those are cut, it really does impact. But certainly cutting these, what I call non-essentials early on and focusing on, profitability will lessen that impact. Other costs that you could cut would be things like office space. If you're leasing, for example, you could negotiate a new lease agreement, given the remote working that's happening, due to COVID. Office supplies such as printing, coffee, post, especially if you have less people coming into your bricks and mortar, are an easy cost to get rid of. And technology is a tough one for me because I don't normally advocate cutting technology, especially the technology that allows you to automate and streamline. But now's not the time to invest. So if you're looking at an inventory management system, for example, you may want to defer that decision and make do with spreadsheets and data entry. Corporate training is another one. Training and education is so important, but this is an area maybe where you can instead focus on the best practices training that exists within your own organization. And then, as much as I hate saying this, consulting services like mine would be a place to cut and focus on your more essential services.
That's interesting that you mentioned that there are things that, there really aren't a lot of things that can be cut that people are spending too much on that won't impact their business.
Yeah.
And hearing you say, don't engage with consultants if you're having cash flow issues is interesting because we normally hear, engage the professionals to ensure that you're making the most out of everything. So it's interesting to hear you say that. But what are some essentials that, maybe you could expand a little bit more on what businesses should definitely not economize on right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, and you made a really interesting point. And I think that if you're not set up like to start looking at some of those efficiencies, then by all means engage a professional to do that. But, assuming that you're running your business and then, COVID hits, then, I guess that's where I've centered most of my, suggestions around. One of the things, I guess the top thing that I don't think anyone should ever economize on is people. I don't think that businesses should start looking at, saving on their talent. The cost of getting them back tends to be far greater than retaining them. But if HR is your biggest cost, then one thing you can do is to shift the responsibilities to more revenue generating activities, streamlining processes to become more efficient and productive, and things like updating your website and collateral. By the same token, it is tempting to reduce wages or to lay off as a quick fix in times of crisis, but I find it's always better if you have to do that. If your people costs are so high that you have to do that, then I find it better to maybe reduce hours than to potentially use your top talent. Marketing, again, I'm a big fan of marketing, so it hurts me to say this, but usually it's a cost that people get rid of. But in this case, like, even if our customers and our prospects know about us, know about our offerings, marketing is so essential because you'll probably be looking to identify new target markets and develop new outreach strategies. So if you cut marketing, then you will definitely damage your growth potential. And lastly, I would say insurance. I mean, a pandemic is bad enough, let alone a disaster or accident in your operational facilities. But also insurance to cover product delivery and customer payments. So Amashika, I think we'll talk about the financing later.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I'm sure Amashika has a lot to say about insurance. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. You sort of touched on reaching new markets, and that's definitely been something that we've seen businesses attempt, and some very successfully during the pandemic, is to adapt, or one of the words of the year is pivot. So I'm wondering that if you could tell us about some strategies that businesses are using to adapt and pivot while also keeping those costs down during a crunch time.
Yeah, sure. Well, I see businesses showing their resilience all over the place, and in adapting to things that are beyond their control, like attending Zoom meetings instead of travel, eliminating not only travel costs, but meal accommodation costs. In my line of business, I'm seeing a lot of, virtual trade missions and site visits that we weren't seeing before. And in some cases, in lieu of physical site visits that are absolutely necessary to visit a supplier or a buyer, I'm seeing a lot of temporary outsourcing. So getting back to your point about, hiring consultants, I would say that this would be similar in that you would be hiring a consultant, but mostly a contractor. So, maybe partners, other companies that are already in that market that you need to be in. Temporary outsourcing, I call it, for example, contracting local boots on the ground to visit and gather the decision-making criteria that you need. In terms of pivoting, the strategy I'm most seeing is a transformational strategy, mostly to digital and virtual business models, leveraging and maximizing on things like social media and advertising on Facebook, for example, where it's so inexpensive and effective for target marketing. Some businesses that have never leveraged government programs or funding, which again will be discussed later on, have found it useful to start leveraging some of those reimbursement programs or incentive programs to generate additional revenue. So that would be a strategy that I'm seeing a lot of. And what I personally recommend is to focus on what you do well and cost effectively, but expand your footprint. So you don't have to reinvent or rethink, just go deeper into the market. But I guess the thing that I wanted to say that businesses are doing isn't really a strategy at all, but it's just being ready to think and act fast. And innovation and time to market are both critical during times like these. And I remember at the onset of COVID, how many companies were able to pivot almost overnight to provide critical equipment and supplies, the respirators, the ventilators, PPE, like face shields and gowns and antimicrobial coatings and rapid testing and disinfecting, autonomous robots. Like, it was really like out of the realm to be able to do that. So that was really all quite impressive, and I saw a lot of that through the past 7 months.
Yeah, you made a really good point about agility and businesses sort of being ready, and the ones who we're ready to handle challenges and be reactive that way have definitely fared better for sure. And I think that also ties back into what you were saying about the people aspect. If you can hold on to your people, but maybe repurpose them a little bit, like refocus them. I know even within our team at FIT, we've had some reprioritization happening. People take on new tasks that they've never done before. So yeah, that's a really great point. Okay, I think we're going to move on to Sonia now and talk a little bit about partnerships. So Sonia, what are some ways that businesses of all sizes are using partnerships to improve their business offerings, and especially now, but at any point that you've seen where it adds in efficiency for them?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to businesses, the question is very broad, but it all comes to what businesses want to achieve. If they want to, they can use partners to gain new markets and develop some new channels. They might want to create new intellectual property or basically like put their synergies together to develop some new infrastructures, or simply to reduce risk. I'm specialized in Africa, so when it comes to, for instance, gaining access to new markets, having a local partner that has already a customer base and already a niche is something that can really be helpful for companies. And I think especially now, this is the period where everybody's at home, everybody's more open for discussion. So I think this is a very good time for SMEs to position themselves on some market they will have never thought about, or they will not have tried to conquer. The other elements where you can use partners is to reduce on cost. For instance, sharing a piece of technology, seeing what are the elements of your company that could be used by another company and create a whole new service, and basically like testing multiple things with different partners and see where it will lead. I think this is the best time also to do it. And as we mentioned also, is reducing inefficiencies, like for instance, as Bernadette mentioned, really concentrating on what your business does the best and outsourcing the administrative task or low-level tasks that take a lot of energy and resources to countries such as, for instance, Mexico or South Africa or any other countries where those low-level tasks could be accomplished. And so you can really put your resources and your energy in developing new business partnerships and new products that will really help you in terms of getting back to growth.
Great. I think it's really interesting that you say now is a great time for partnerships, because I think, well, hopefully that's something that people are considering, but it does seem to also bring with it a lot of challenges in terms of getting partnerships up off the ground, finding the right partnerships, and identifying, what you really want out of a partnership that'll really help your business. So maybe Sonia, you can tell us a little bit more about how businesses are finding these types of partnerships and ensuring that they're a good fit for their business plans.
Yeah. I think the first thing that I will do will be to look at my existing partners. Is there any room for improvement? From what I see very often is you will sign a partnership, but then you will never kind of put the resources or the marketing effort behind in order to really develop the partnership. Is your partner trying to conquer new markets? How can you support your partner? So this is really like looking at what you have before you start reaching out to new business partners, looking at what you have and see how you can improve. Are you 100% committed to this partnership that you already have, or is there any room for improvement? Then the other elements, once you've done this exercise and you're looking for new business partnerships because maybe you want to go into new territories, you will find there's a lot of databases that are available. You can join a chamber of commerce, even though very often we talk about chamber of commerce being very outdated. It's still a good place to meet business partners, especially like the foreign chamber of commerces. You have also trade organizations and associations that are really good place to find business partners and people that are kind of privated and you know that they have the same vision in terms of what they want to achieve. One element that Bernadette also mentioned is all of the virtual events that are happening at the moment. For a lot of SMEs, the cost of trade exhibitions is very high, so they can usually do one trade exhibition or 2 trade exhibitions per year. But now, literally, the whole industry made most of the trade exhibitions completely free or very affordable for SMEs. So you can really intervene as being a speaker, or you can network online with people that you will actually never meet. So this is really like a really good opportunity. And I think that with the current pandemic, we will see more and more virtual events, not only physical events, but I think that the virtual events will still continue to grow. And one other place where I found like the most amazing contacts and I found fit through LinkedIn is LinkedIn. LinkedIn Sales Navigator, really implementing, having a real strategy in terms of sourcing your contacts. LinkedIn has been a game changer for a lot of businesses that did not rely on LinkedIn very much to find new business opportunities. But if you really the time and the resources to implement it, it can really make a big change to your business.
Yeah, I think you said a few really interesting things that I was really happy to hear. In terms of virtual events, like for FIT, the Business Helping Business live events that we've been having, which we've had 2 of so far, have actually been a place where people have been able to find new collaborations, which is very exciting. So that's a really great point about virtual events. There's a very low barrier to entry for those right now. All you have to do is set aside the time and log in and interact with people all over the world. Although I'm sure it's a very different experience than being there in person and being able to shake people's hands at live events. There's a lot lower of a barrier to entry, I would say, lower cost, no travel involved, just hop right in. So that's a really interesting point.
Yes, and I think that one of there are a couple of questions that that businesses have to have in mind when it comes to finding a business partner is does your business partner have already the target customer that you're reaching, or what are the solutions that they're trying to implement? In terms of operation, if they have existing operations, how it's going to work, and how will you be able to create like a synergy? So really like all of those questions, and also having like a shared vision, because what you do not want is to enter into business partnerships and then within 2 or 3 months, you've put all of this resource, all of this energy, and to see that what you want to create together is not in line with your own business. So those are all of the elements that businesses have to think about. So when it comes to finding a new business partner, they really have to think about what they want to achieve and what is the strategy behind. What do they actually want to commit to, and what do they actually want to achieve?
Yeah, so do a little bit of research and make sure you really know who you are going out to potentially
Definitely.
partner with.
Yes.
That's a great point. And this is another broad question, but I'm really interested to hear what you have maybe come across this way. What are some ways that you're seeing companies use technology to improve efficiency? So do more with less, or increase sales through, new ways of using technology. So we've already talked about, virtual events, remote work. Are there some other things that people are tapping into to do a little bit more with less for their businesses?
Yeah, I think from my own experience this year, because we really had to go through that, all of those online marketing tools that are available to basically automate how you reach out to customers, how you generate leads for your business. It's actually incredible. I had no idea how big it was, but they all offer like free services. So you really can develop a strategy, a commercial strategy to reach to new businesses opportunities by implementing those tools. When it comes to conferences, we were talking about attending trade show, but one element that you can also do for yourself and for your business is creating a whole event just focused on your own business and what your business can bring. So conferences, those online conferences like Hopin and Zoom really give the possibility for any business to really create like a whole curated event centered around experts that they can pick, and a perfect way to showcase their products. Then when it comes to team development, you have also all of the online trainings that are available like Fit, but also like all major companies are all providing so much content at the moment that this is really, if your teams or your business, you didn't put the focus on training your staff, this is, I think, the best moment to do it, because it's not going to cost you. And there's so much content available that you can really take the time to really train your staff so they can prepare for the next phase of your business. And then, of course, there's all those tools that are available for financial models, KPIs, or all those. There's so many of it that where you find some inefficiencies in your operations or the way that you collaborate, there's a tool for that. One thing that I've realized this year with like Zoom, for instance, that was the end of endless meetings. You start a meeting for 20 minutes, you really go to the point. And I think this is something that you become really, really efficient. There's no chit chat, what you want to achieve. And I think this is what we're gonna see more and more. And there's lesson to learn with the current situation.
Great. That's interesting that you say that these online meetings we're having versus in-person meetings have improved efficiency that way. I'm definitely noticing that, although Zoom fatigue is also a real thing.
Yeah, it is.
It was interesting to hear what you have to say about training, because obviously FIT is a training organization. And it was interesting to hear Bernadette say, you know, corporate training might be something that your business can't really afford right now. But there's so many different types of training too. So I have to get a little shout out there to online training and the different options that Sonia mentioned too. You know, there's a lot of free training available out there right now. And, you know, among all of the different things available, FIT has some free downloads too that you can go to on the business resources section of our website. And then lots of discounted online training right now too, we're seeing. So another
yes.
source.
Yeah, but also like all of the online networking, because as the director of the Chamber of Commerce, the only thing we could do this year was online networking and providing online training. Those were the only two things that we could do, and providing it for free. So all of the major organizations, and if you're looking to tap into a new market, you will have so much content to prepare yourself that you'll not know where to start, really.
Good point. All right, I want to make sure that everybody is putting their questions into the Q&A so that we have some great things to answer towards the end of the hour here. And let's keep it moving. We'll go to Rahim now and talk a little bit about shipping and customs and how people can save a little bit of money and make those processes more efficient. So Rahim, what are some where are importers and exporters losing money in international shipping right now? Let's start there.
I think delays are causing additional costs. And on the other hand, having wrong tariff classification and not having updated information about the current rules and regulations because something is changing causes companies to become encountered with unforeseen situations, and they are forced to pay some fines and accept some additional costs. I think the main or key issue that companies should have in mind is selecting the right 3PL service provider. If they select the right company for receiving and for getting these services, they encounter much less problems. And the key is in continuous, I think, reviewing the relationship and having a close relationship with the 3PL companies and requesting them to support us with updated information, and also using the highest of the space and the weight that we have in transportation. I mean, avoiding dead space in containers, in ships, and using the best or optimum way that we can do. And it needs a kind of support from 3PL companies, because especially small and medium-sized companies are not empowered to analyze all these details. So we need to select the right company, and I think we need a kind of model, or we need a kind of framework to look at these companies, their background, their specialty. Some companies are more experienced in ground transportation. Some companies are more experienced in marine transportation. We need a comprehensive model to select the right fit for our company.
Yeah, you made a really good point that, a lot of the things that are costing businesses money right now are beyond our control because of the delays that, were unforeseen or we couldn't really prevent. But certainly any mistakes that you're making with customs and classification, things like that, are just going to add to it. So I'm curious, what are some more tips, if you have any more tips for how businesses can avoid getting dinged with fees and delays? Like, is there anything else that businesses can do to really do their due diligence to avoid that?
I think a very important point is our attitude about cost and is our attitude about price. I've seen many customers and many companies who are trying to decrease their costs by just decreasing the fees of customs brokers or customs clearance companies or transportation companies. A very important point, which I always advise my customers to have in mind, is that you have to think about the total cost, the total landed cost, not just about the price that you are paying to some companies. I think in some situations, decreasing costs needs increasing some other costs in other fields. For example, if you pay a bit higher to a professional transportation company for their freight, you may avoid many hidden costs. I think we are surprised with hidden costs a lot of times during our supply chain, and we just look at the price, but we do not remember to emphasize on the fact that I expect my transportation company to clearly explain me what types of costs are included in this price and what types of costs are not included. So we have to define the exclusions and inclusions. For example, sometimes I might give wrong information to the transportation company about the weight, and it might cause a very high fine, like, for example, VGM, verified gross mass. If it's wrong, it causes high costs. I have to request my transportation company what costs are included in this price and what costs are not included, and have a clear and comprehensive agreement with the transportation company and customs brokerage companies.
Yeah, you made a really good point about, it can save you money if you, I was going to ask you about, engaging freight forwarders and companies that can help you with that. And I think it speaks even more broadly to, all different aspects of international business that, and touches on partnership too, right? If you can find a way to engage with other professionals, even outside of your organization, that will help make your business more efficient, that's maybe a cost that's worth investing in. but you'd have to do your homework to really be sure that you're spending money on something you're going to get a return from. But that does seem to be sort of an overarching theme I'm hearing from people, that engaging with professionals who really know what they're doing in different parts of your business can really help you save money. So spend money to save money in a way.
Yeah. And another point is that I have a tip for small businesses. Pay attention to abbreviations. When you see in your contract or in your quotation a kind of abbreviation, for example, my price is $1,000 FIOST. FIOST means free in, out, steamed, stowed, and trimmed. This has a technical meaning, and if you do not understand the meaning of this, it means that you will be surprised when you will receive your invoice. So whenever you see something that you do not understand it, clearly ask it.
Very good point. Are there any other cost-saving logistics strategies that you're seeing business employing right now that you can sort of share with us during a time of disruption?
I think when we talk about cost, it's not good to just talk about financial costs. We have to pay attention to some costs which are related to time and to headaches. So instead of just decreasing the financial costs, for this time, for these days, I suggest companies to keep more inventory, because your credibility is more important than $1,000 or $2,000. Keep more inventory and try to have some alternatives from local suppliers instead of buying from overseas 100%. I just suggest that let's have some local suppliers close to our factory and close to our facility. And another point is optimum usage of weight and volume in air transport, in road transport. We have to make the best of the space that we have. And one more point which I would like to talk about is suitable packaging. Try to make your packaging somehow good for your mode of transport. You do not need the same transport in same packaging in air transport compared to sea transport. So if you were purchasing by Incoterms which are useful for sea transport, like CFR, CIF, and you had a special type of packaging, now you are moving to air transport, you need to change your packaging and you need to make some modifications. So one of the best methods is to have close relationship with your partners, with your suppliers, and always request them for modifications and for decreasing the cost together, because we are a part of the same competition unit. Nowadays, experts say that companies do not compete with each other. Supply chains are competing with each other. So we have to find solutions along with our suppliers and with customers, and we have to make some committees to find best solutions.
Yeah, you touched on two really interesting things that I've been hearing a lot of people mention is bringing in those local suppliers. We've learned how crucial that is right now when we're facing all kinds of border delays. But also, the collaborative nature of business these days things have changed a lot in that way, haven't they? That you really need to, the closer relationships you can have with your every different supplier and vendor you're involved with can really help both businesses to flourish. So that's a really great point. Thanks, Rahim.
Thank you. And one short and final point is that try to engage your 3PL companies and customs brokerage from the first point, from the date that you have the pro forma invoice or the purchase order, because rules are changing very fast and you need the updated information. Thank you.
Thanks, Rahim. All right, we're going to go to Amashika now for some finance questions. And I think, this is so crucial. We're getting right to the heart of the matter now. So Amashika, for businesses who are looking to increase their cash flow during a tough time, what are some of the available finance options? Let's start there.
Well, thank you. this is probably the number one question that I receive pre-COVID, post-COVID. Companies asking, how do I access the necessary cash flow or working capital to grow my business? And what I tend to see is that companies' first step is always to run and jump to their bank to ask for money, or to come to organizations like Export Development Canada to ask for money. However, I feel strongly that running to your bank without being prepared can actually force you to lose out on opportunities to improve your position. So for me, I was thinking about this question, and I really see this question come down to three important key items. The first being self-evaluation in terms of the cost-cutting experience. So does your company have a business plan? Have you adjusted your business plan to reflect the current pandemic? And by doing so, you are evaluating your business processes, the priorities for your company at this time, and really determining where that cash flow or that working capital is needed in your business at this time. And part of that strategy is also evaluating your expenses and reviewing what expenses can be cut. And as Bernadette was speaking of, there's different ways to really look at that, whether it's on a short-term basis or a long-term basis. The majority of my clients that I've seen over the last 8 months, and the things that I wanted to hear from them, and I know that their banks have wanted to hear from them, is what have they done as a business owner to review their current business operations, adjusted their business plan, and cut expenses. So for example, I've had some clients who've cut their executive pay, they've maybe reduced bonus payouts, sometimes reduced their workforce, or find better efficiencies within their operations where they could quickly pivot to sell online as well. So this is really important, and I think it's a way that you can find some additional cash in your own operations that you didn't realize that you could do by just cutting some expenses at this time. Secondly, I also believe that working with your current clients can also be a strategy. So asking your clients for larger deposits or installment payments is another way to get cash in the door much quicker. And I know, as I say that, you're probably thinking, oh yeah, right, how am I going to ask my client for additional money or for deposits? Listen, in this time, companies are very aware of the difficult position that various companies are in, especially when you're a small business company. So you should be really looking at how you can renegotiate your terms that will best suit your business. We have to remember that conventional business practices are changing, and you have to find the best practice that will suit your business. So if you're the kind of company that has traditionally given longer payment terms, such as net 60 or net 90-day terms, maybe this is the time where you should be reevaluating that and cutting that back. Maybe you should only be extending 10 days or 15 days, or maybe 30 at most, in order to get that cash in as quickly as possible. So you cannot be afraid to ask your clients or your suppliers to work with you to try to find the best option for you. And this is a way that you can really improve your cash flow by doing that. I also recommend, depending on the type of industry that you're in, whether you provide a service or a product, that you should be working with your clients to figure out whether there's another type of product or service that they need at this time. And this can be another source of additional revenue for you. Companies right now do not want to be going to multiple different vendors or suppliers to provide them with the resources that they need. So if you can find a way to fulfill that need for them, it will not only put more cash, bring more revenue into your business, but it will also further cement your relationship with that client because you're serving their need. So do not hesitate to speak to your clients, ask them what they need at this time, and see how you as a business can support those needs.
Great answer.
And lastly,
oh, go ahead.
And lastly, I was going to talk a little bit about working capital. So going to your bank and asking for more money. I know this is really daunting. I know as a small business owner, it can be really scary to go to your bank, but I'll tell you, the banks do have appetite right now. They do have some appetite. This is a social crisis with economic impacts, meaning we're not in a recession right now yet. So the banks do have a lot of money. Speak to them to make, my apologies, to speak to them to see what they can do for you at this time. So whether that means bumping up your operating line or establishing a new operating line is something that you should be talking to your bank about. And it's really important that you talk about the different government programs that are available right now. EDC, in partnership with the banks right now, have a BCAP guarantee program, which is the business credit accountability, no, excuse me, business credit accessibility program, the BCAP guarantee, which is a program that helps get working capital to companies who are having specific cash flow challenges as a result of the pandemic. So this is a program that a lot of banks are implementing for their clients. You do not have to be an exporter to apply for it. And EDC is providing an 80% guarantee, which will enable the bank to have more appetite to lend you the working capital that you need. BDC is another great resource to go to for working capital right now. They are the small business bank. They provide a variety of types of financing options for clients. And if that's not possible, another option that I always recommend is factoring. Factoring is a way to get that cash flow that you need to complete a contract. Because what factoring is that you sell your purchase order to a factoring company and they will give you money up front so that you can use those proceeds to complete the contract. So these are some of the great measures that I think companies can think about and implement to improve their cash flow during this time.
Thanks, Amashika. Those are some really great practical tips and good to know about banks too. I think that corrections can be a little bit daunting, I think, right now for businesses to approach banks. But it's good to know that they're, for the most part, open to that, and there are some resources available for them as well.
And to add, I think what's really important is that if you are going to go to your bank, you have to be prepared. There's going to be certain things that they're going to be looking for. And during this COVID time, what banks and EDC and other parties are looking for is we want to know, what have you as a business owner done to ride out this wave, right? What have you done to improve your business processes? What have you done to at least maintain or increase your revenues at this time? Having prepared financial statements, having prepared projections, having a revised business plan. These are all necessary documentation that your bank is going to ask for. So the more prepared you go in with them, the better result you'll have.
Great point. I want to make sure we're going to jump to the Q&A in just a second, and I see the questions coming in, which is great. So I'll encourage, please keep adding questions as we go. But I want to make sure we do have a chance to talk about insurance before we jump to that. So maybe, Amashika, you can tell me a bit about how insurance plays into cost savings and what your advice might be about how businesses can approach that right now, especially the ones who might be struggling a little bit.
Absolutely. So we know that risk is inevitable as a business owner when doing business, especially when you're doing business abroad. So I think the real key to think about is evaluate where your risks are and have a plan to mitigate them. And so by having a plan and being prepared for whichever scenarios that may arise will save you money down the road, right? You won't be blindsided for any foreseen costs or charges that you didn't know were coming. So credit insurance, or what's often referred to as accounts receivable insurance, is a cost of doing business. We know that. But what it does do is it helps mitigate your risk against the risk of not getting paid. And so that saves you a lot of money, because the amount of effort and time that you will have to do to go and replace that revenue that you would have had from that client if they had paid you is a lot more detrimental and a lot more expensive than it is to pay for insurance in this time. So in my experience, companies who think by cutting costs like insurance will help them, but in the end, it ends up hurting them down the road because of the outcome of the risk that may come. So the best strategy is be prepared, do what you need to do to determine where your risk is, where are you the most exposed, and reach out to partners like Export Development Canada to help you evaluate those choices, seek the expert advice, and help you grow your business.
Great answer. Thanks, Ashika. So I'm going to go to the questions from the audience now. And as I said, keep them coming. But I think this first one I'll throw to Rahim. As a new, relatively small company, I sometimes feel that freight forwarders are placing me in the back of the queue in terms of priority for their services. This is something that I've heard of people mentioning before too. How can I make sure I assert myself other than just paying more?
It's the point that I mentioned, and finding the right fit. See, I cannot name some companies, but you know that we have some companies who has over 2,000 or 3,000 human resources, very large companies, and small companies might not be a valuable customer for these type of companies. I suggest to find the company for whom you are a valuable customer. And they might be some companies smaller, but they respect you more. They pay more attention to your business, and they look at you as a valuable customer. So going for well-known companies might not be a good strategy in some situations.
Interesting point. So are there anything that you can look for specifically when you're looking for a freight forwarder, other than company size and sort of established companies versus maybe smaller companies? What kind of things would you look for to make sure that you're going to find the right freight forwarder?
There are many criteria. I will send you a list, and you might like to share it with our attendants. And I think one important point is the types of services. We have companies who are active in many fields, but some companies concentrate on a given service, like, for example, ground transportation, warehousing. We need to do a clear and exact need analysis. What do we really need? In some situations, companies do not need fast delivery, do not need air transport. They need early ordering. They need better time planning and scheduling. I will send you a list for selecting the right companies, and you can share it with our attendants.
Great. Yeah. Any resources that have come up today will be shared through an email following up. Thank you. Everybody here today. This is a question directly for Ashika. Somebody wants to know, instead of cutting payment terms down to customers and risk hurting, wouldn't it be better to keep that or even increase terms to keep a flow of customers?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what's best for your business, right? So payment terms are a reality of doing business, especially in markets all around the world, right? Your ability to give your clients payment terms is a privilege, right? That you're extending to your client, and it's a way to secure new customers who are asking you for more time to pay them. So you really just have to figure out what's best for your business. If you are somebody who can afford to have longer terms and you have enough cash flow through other means to operate, then absolutely you should give them your clients will thank you for giving them longer terms as they so need. But my suggestion was to just really think about your own business, what makes sense for you, and how you can play around with payment terms to either shorten the cash flow, meaning get that cash in quicker, or delay getting the cash in, but then have other means to get that cash to operate. I hope that answers your question. It's a very tricky situation. We see many companies, depends on your industry, depends on what countries you're doing business in. And it really just comes down to, as I mentioned, what's right for your business.
Exactly. Yeah. Great answer. Thanks. I'll throw this question out to anyone who wants to answer because it's a little bit broader. But aside from just government assistance programs, what are some resources for businesses out there right now when it comes to cost savings? Does anybody know of any, great programs or tools out there that they want to give a mention to?
I can jump in with some information on, it's actually government funding, but it is a really valuable program. So to add to Amishika's comments, the federal government, the 5 superclusters under the mandate of Minister Baines, offer funding for up to 50% reimbursement. So if, for example, you're a manufacturing company, you're looking to advance your processes by automating or adopting new technologies so that you can become more competitive, then you and your SME partner, they're encouraging collaboration with other small, medium businesses, would qualify for those programs, and they're almost, capless. So there's a supercluster on advanced manufacturing. I'm just going to paste in the links or the websites. So advanced manufacturing, they're building next generation manufacturing capabilities, like robotics and 3D printing, and focusing on training, you'll be glad to know, and technology, adoption. The Ocean Supercluster, they harness emerging technologies to strengthen industries like the marine, renewable energy and fisheries, aquaculture, oil and gas, and defense, shipbuilding, all those things. And then the Digital Technology Supercluster, they use bigger, better data sets, cutting edge applications, augmented reality, cloud computing, machine learning, and those things in the delivery of their natural resources, health and manufacturing sectors as well. And then there's the AI-powered supply chains. They build intelligent supply chains. So Rahim, you'd probably love to hear about that one. And they do that through adoption and integration of artificial intelligence and robotics. And then finally, the proteins industry, they use plant genomics, novel processing technology to increase the value of our Canadian crops, canola and wheat, and those things. And for companies that are interested in the high growth foreign markets and expanding our plant protein.
Does anyone else want to jump in with any other resources that they want to mention before we jump to the last question?
Yeah, if I could jump in quickly, I think, EDC has a phenomenal trade advisory team where you can submit any kind of requests through our website or through us, an account manager, where if you have any trade related questions, you can submit that into us, and our skilled team will produce those resources for you. I would also highly recommend leveraging the program, the different government grant programs, and specifically Innovation Canada has the ability for you to search the various different government funding programs that might be the right fit for you. And they actually have an advisor that you can speak to who can then give you that one-on-one support when determining which programs are the best fit for you. So that's another resource that I would highly, highly recommend.
That's great. 2 great resources to mention. Thanks, Amishika. I can vouch for the advisors at EDC. They're very, very helpful. And the other resource you mentioned, there's so many things I think out there available, so many programs that have come up. And I think it can be confusing for businesses to know, what is the right thing for them to go after, because there is a lot of, time and effort into, applying for those different programs and evaluating them. So yeah, that's a great tool. Thank you so much for that. One last question. We only have a minute left, so I want to make sure we get to it. For Rahim, can you tell us about any changes that CUSMA or the USMCA have brought to your clients when dealing with Canadian customs?
One important point is about country of origin rules in different products. Something has changed about tariff changes and other details. Another point is about the values. The value threshold is changed, and I suggest to check with your customs broker about all the details, because based on the product, we might have different points. And I just suggest to check with your customs brokerage the latest and the most updated information. And I think maybe in next months, we have some other changes too. So try to keep yourself updated and request your brokers to help you.
Great, thanks, Raheem. All right, well, thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. I can't believe the hour is over already. It always goes by so fast. A big thank you to our wonderful panel, of course, for your fantastic insights. Ashika Bayada, Bernadette Fernandez, Raheem Motor, and Sonia Galat. And thank you to everyone for submitting such great questions for our panelists to answer in the Q&A as well. I'll put a few additional shout outs to FIT resources you can access that might help with some of these issues we've mentioned today. So to learn more about all aspects of international business finance, including payment and risk mitigation and cash flow management, you can check out FIT's International Trade Finance course. So I'll drop the link to that in the chat box now. There we go. Another training program that FIT offers is the planning for international market entry that touches on a lot of the aspects that we've spoken of today, including partnership. So to find successful partnerships and develop a strong market entry plan, check out the FIT Skills Workshop Planning for International Market Entry, and I'll pop that link in there as well. And as I mentioned, all these links will be available via an email that you'll receive within the next couple of days. We also, as I mentioned, provide a lot of free downloadable resources to guide you through cash flow management and crossing borders and managing customs. So two major things we talked about today. You can find them all at fitfortrade.com/fit resources. And there's the link for that. All right, and now that all the housekeeping is done, I will just say, thank you once again for everyone who attended and for all of our great panelists. To get a summary of today's event, stay tuned for a recap article later this week on tradeready.ca and access to the recording, which will be available later this week. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us this morning, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.